Hi there, I'm Junaid, neurocritical care stroke and epilepsy specialist, and I wanted to talk to you about today our project under NeuroCare AI that we are talking about health solutions on AI. The main aim of this is to democratize digital radiology and digital pathology. And what do I mean by that? So one of the key things that we have to understand in terms of what are the real problems and real challenges in doing real world artificial intelligence. We need to create a pathway for digital radiology, and the way we have created it, it can be replicated for digital pathology as well in the future. And the idea behind not just doing artificial intelligence for research, but rather than doing it for commercialization, for real world implementation. And when you look at that, the core issue in any artificial intelligence project is not building the algorithm. Algorithm is the easy part. Algorithm is to be honest with you, algorithm is only the 10% of what we need to do as far as doing an artificial intelligence work. What we need is basically a data pipeline, a data strategy. So that's why what we have been actively working on is creating not only a data pipeline, but a label operation pipeline and commercialization pipeline. These are the three main areas that we are trying to solve. Number one, the data pipeline. Number two, the label ops, and then the commercialization. And we're going to talk about all three of them. What does data pipeline mean? Data pipeline basically means that we have currently a level of places where institutions can produce data, and that data can be de-anonymized, and once that de-anonymizes is done, they can be uploaded and then it can be used for research frequently, fast, without any hurdles. So the de-anonymization is actually the key area in which both digital radiology and digital pathology research can happen. Same thing, once it is done, then you actually have to move to the next step, is properly labeling that new data, both in terms of radiology and pathology, but we're going to concentrate on radiology from now on because pathology is going to come in phase 2 in 2024. So one of the key things we have to do is do the labeling. So for example, if you're doing CT brain, which is the main project number one that we are doing, and the second project would be about chest x-rays, we're going to talk about classification of disease. So we have to basically look at the CT brain and classify them, if there's a bleed or not, if there's air or not, if there's fracture or not. So the classification, and then eventually we're going to move towards segmentation, and we're going to basically draw the whole outline of the intracerebral hemorrhage. And there's also software services that we are trying to produce at some point in time, which we're going to do that. And then most importantly, at the end of the day, people do not talk about commercialization until and unless we are able to integrate that and implement that into a commercial product. We are only going to do research, and that's why we are a proper company and we want to basically commercialize it. The commercialization project does not mean that we can actually sell it. There's a huge difference, right? I mean, to be honest with you, CT Brain project, there are 28 companies in US. I don't think so I can compete anymore in this market. But our point over here is that at least there's a pathway that we can actually do this stuff at a commercial level in future projects as needed. For example, CT angiogram, CT angiogram for the chest in PE protocol detection, etc. But for commercialization project, we need to start slow. We need to replicate things that have been already done so that we can actually create a pathway for everyone in the future that comes in. What do I mean by commercialization? Commercialization basically means that you need to know how to get FDA approval. For that, you need quality management system. You need risk assessment. You need risk analysis. You need FDA approval. How do you get FDA approval? Which class 1 device or class 2 device? If there is class 2 device, what kind of applications you have to go through? So we have a whole pathway of doing that as well. So the idea is not to just do research project, but to actually create AI products, especially from Pakistan. Now, understanding where the real applications are extremely important. One of the key applications is critical notification. I mean, what happens is that there could be thousands of CT brains done, but the idea is that the AI can help you notify if that particular image in the list of so many scans that you have to do, which one you have to read first. And that is what we call critical notification. Of course, our application is much higher than that. I'm going to show you in a minute. But one of the key applications that we look for is critical notification application. And the minute you can have that, you can decrease the overall burden on the radiologist, which to read first, which not to read first, and therefore they can actually prioritize studies that need to be read first. The second big thing is cost savings. Believe it or not, this is actually the first chest x-ray. It's very hard to see the pneumothorax on it. If you look at the CT chest that were done later, you can easily see the pneumothorax. Apparently, it was much easier for their AI to read the pneumothorax on it. So if I had this thing, which was hard for people to initially, now in retrospect, of course, everything's easy, but when you actually initially saw that image, we were not able to see the pneumothorax, and the patient was still having some breathing difficulty. So I ended up ordering the CT chest to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But if I had the AI, they would have given this, and I would have saved the cost of doing the CT chest, which is an expensive test, which is a high cost of radiation burden on the patient as well. So clearly, there's cost savings that are involved. Similarly, if you look at this, you are able to see this. It's very hard to see over here if there is actually truly pneumonia on this patient, but AI was able to pick it up. And when you look at the CT chest, that's again very important. So that's why we have the two major projects. Number one is going to be CT brain that we are doing right now. The second one that is going to come next year, actually we're already starting to collect data from there, is going to be chest x-ray data as we move along. So the whole idea is to democratize, digitize, and then commercialize. Democratize, digitize, commercialize. So one of the key things that we want to do is, what is the real problems specifically related to Pakistan that are having? One of the things is that everyone is doing chest x-rays, and they're doing it on these films, and those films are really expensive, and we are using precious dollars to actually import those films and then give it to them. All this can be digital. The reason why it's not digital, because the actual DICOM servers are so expensive. They have to do licensing fees on it. So what are we doing for that? What we're doing is we're developing a complete open source system which will be available free for Pakistan in terms of using it. I mean, I'm not going to pay for AWS and cloud charges. If they want to do that, then they can do that by themselves, but that will be available so they can digitize and their digital processes, the digital radiology processes, and in future digital pathology processes. So what's going to happen is that everything is going to start becoming digital. Once it's digital, then and then alone it can be used for research, for commercialization, whatever that is. So we're building a completely open source digital open source in terms of using open source technology. Of course, my product will not be open source because there's a lot of intellectual property that is going into it, but it will be available free for Pakistan. The idea behind it is that once you have that, now you can anonymize the data within one software application and use it as soon as possible in future applications, both for research and commercialization. So that's one of the things we're doing. The way we're doing it is also approaching it is very easy. We are building these really small mini PCs, and these PCs are, the total cost of is going to be less than 40,000 rupees Pakistani. The total cost in US dollars is coming to 160 US dollars. So for less than $40,000, you have a machine that can do two things. One, it's going to have the DICOM server that we need. It is going to be free. There's no licensing fees. You just buy this once and you keep it, period. If you want to connect it to the cloud, you connect it to the cloud. If you don't want to connect it to the cloud, you can just use it internally to share images, whatever you want to do. More importantly, because AI is done on AWS and it's done on Google Cloud or Azure, that is expensive stuff that can do, because you have to upload the image, that's internet cost. Then you have to store that image, that's another storage cost. And then you have to go to Edge AI to do the artificial intelligence, that's another cost. All that cost is very expensive overall for a country like Pakistan. So what do? We basically have these devices. That's a one-time cost that people can do actual artificial intelligence on this device. So our CT hemorrhage model that we have already developed is being optimized to run on this device, which is less than 40,000 rupees in Pakistan, and they can actually use it without actually doing anything. And that's the whole point of making it available, viable for real world usage, because you are constrained about real world, whatever the real world situation is. I mean, and there are constraints over here in US as well. I mean, there are different constraints in terms of cybersecurity requirements and other regulatory requirements. And over here in Pakistan, there are financial requirements. Everywhere there is constraints, and we have to work within that environmental constraints to have a real world product. So therefore, we're developing this at the moment. Currently, literally, I shipped total 6 of them in Pakistan. They're being tested at the moment, and we're going to deploy them February as soon as our other things are getting ready as we move along. The other thing we wanted to do was basically make sure that we have that in a mobile friendly format. The reason behind that is that as you know, that the computer screens that we're using is 1080p 250 CDI per meter square, which is basically the luminance and the brightness intensity. Interestingly, the mobile devices that we are using have much higher resolution, and therefore amazingly right now we're looking at, if you want to see radiology images, you initially you wanted to have screens that are highly expensive, like $10,000 for one screens. But these new cell phone screens and even tablet screens at the cost of $200-300 per device is now matching those level of resolutions, and therefore it is better to have these devices. And especially again in countries like Pakistan, the technology has brought these solutions as very cost effective level, so they can use this particularly to diagnose. So that's why we are building not only mobile application, I'm going to show you in a minute, we're going to build on tablet applications as well, and then we can move forward in democratizing this process of digital radiology. One of the other things I wanted to do is everyone shares these images to me, especially on WhatsApp. Hey, Junaid, can you look at this CT brain on a patient in Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, whatever? I wanted to make sure that they can share images more securely rather than having these stupid pictures in front of a white box. We want to make sure that I can actually look at the images in a proper way, manipulate the images as needed, and then be able to give my opinion, a second opinion that I normally do for fi sabilillah for these patients as well. The other big issue is now when you have the data that is digital and now it's available on a mobile application, wherever you want to do, then you have to know how to label it. Now, labeling in itself is extremely important. There are two ways to label it. Again, we can do this for basically, just making sure that we have the data labeled that says bleed or no bleed in the brain. That's great. But at the end of the day, you also want to take it to the next level and make sure that you're labeling it in a way that it can be used for future FDA application. There's a big misconception that for FDA application, you need all the data from US. Bullshit. You only need 5% of data from US. All the other data can be international. And the minute you have just a little bit of data from US, which we can help you in any project you want, because we have a lot of people that can, from UPNA and all of those people who are interested in research, we will help you getting that data from US as well. The minute you are able to have most of it from international, you will be able to create products that can be FDA approved in the future. So that's, again, we have to commercialize product mindset rather than just research mindset in the future. So this seems like a research project in the beginning, but I want you to make sure that the process we're going to follow is that we're going to build a product. We're not just going to build a research paper. We are going to do tons of research papers, don't get me wrong. I mean, we are actually already writing 12 research papers and right now, which one of them is going to be really published in a very high impactful journals, etc. But even that, it's important that you have the mindset of both, that we are doing some research, which is of course good for humanity, but also good for Pakistan. We need to make sure that you understand that we want to take that research and build it into a product. Now, coming back to the labeling. Now, the problem with the labeling is that their Monado AI is basically an open source platform. We can just basically use that. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the QA requirements that we need for FDA approval. So we have to use this software, what we call MD.AI. That's what we are doing right now. Quite expensive. I had to spend actually about, I think $18,000 to get this particular software piece for my particular project. And there are, of course, different software services that are available that are doing that. We are planning to build our own service based on this Monado.ai. Currently, it is not in production. We're going to start working on this particular labeling software of our own, both for digital radiology and digital pathology, in September of 2022. We are getting our team ready. As soon as this particular CT hemorrhage product is ready, then we're going to move to the next one. And then at that point in time, we're going to create our own process. And one of the key issues in our process is that we wanted to make sure that to make life easy for you, because sometimes you require diplomat American board for review of these labeling as well. We can get these labeling done in Pakistan, but then we can do what we call a crowdsource layer on the mobile application. Like, for example, if you want to do CT detection for volumetric measurements, and then we can create this old mobile application where we can relabel very fast while I'm sitting on my cell phone, rather than doing. And then this can be crowdsourced to different physicians in Pakistan. There's registration is easy, and as I said, you need very small amount of data that is either read by the US physicians or also the US data, and this way you can easily get to the product faster. So the way that we're gonna improve on this particular process is to be able to do it in a way that is different, and it is better in terms of both ability to do it on the mobile application and on the tablet application. These are of course very preliminary designs. That's why they don't look good, because we are currently in the process of creating the whole application. And that's, again, as I said, we're gonna we are looking for more developers. As you can see, it's hard to get it, so we're gonna basically create this application. We're going to start officially on July, and then hopefully in September we'll have everything up and running. But currently we had to make sure that we do the project, and therefore we are using the MD.AI, which is a software solution that was already available, and that's why I paid for it. There you go. Now the biggest issue is how to get to FDA clearance, and there's such a big issue with that. You have to again look at cybersecurity framework, you have to look at risk management, you have to look at quality management system. These are just baseline stuff that we need to do, and then the company that is doing that is actually certified on that, and then each product in that company is then certified on class 1, class 2 device. So not only we're going to do that for our company, and we're going through the process, which is extremely expensive. It's about $100,000 to $150,000 in terms of cost is concerned. What we're going to do is we're going to basically go through the process, and we're going to create a proper course for everyone in Pakistan to understand this whole process, what we went through, and we're already working on that. And the idea is that at least you can get to some level, and then eventually you will be able to understand how to get this product, this research into product. And one of the key issues is FDA clearance. So we're actively working on this solution. We have a whole team of now around 12 people who are working on just FDA, and now it's all internal, so they're directly working under me as far as FDA clearance is concerned. What is our current status? So we actually, for the CT hemorrhage project, this is the one that is very dear to me, because one of the reasons that I want this project is because TPA, which is the thrombolytic medication, is now off patent. And once it's off patent, then it can be readily, more cheaply available in everywhere, and especially in emerging countries. So the biggest rate limiting factor is if there's a bleed in the brain. So once there's a bleed in the brain, you can't give this medication. If there's no bleed in the brain and patient is in a time frame, etc., we are going to be able to give this medication. It's going to radically change the way we save lives and limbs, especially for stroke patients. And it's a very big issue, especially in Pakistan, where there is significant disability. You can take out a whole family, because generally speaking, there's one big working person, and God forbid he got a stroke and got severe disability, we have significant economic downturn for the whole family. So that's where I wanted to come in and do that. We have approximately data collection done about 80%. We have already started on data labeling. What we did was that we took all the available open source data, and that was around 65 million images from different CT images, and we already created our AI model, and we had tested it already that it is working or not. Now what we have to do is we have to retest it on our own data, and therefore that will be completely final, and then we can send it to FDA approval. However, to make it truly useful, we need to make the mobile application as I suggested, and we are approximately 50% done on that mobile application. And then we're going to create the tablet format of that as well, and we're going to present it. Again, the application itself will be free for Pakistan to use. Again, the cloud charges, I have no idea yet, so I'm going to be honest with you. We are working actively of creating a regional server as well, so we are looking into creating those regional servers as well. And there are, again, very amazing physicians here in the United States have already told me that, hey, if it's a one-time cost of creating a server in Pakistan, let me know. They will contribute, and then hopefully we don't even have to go to AWS, and we can create a regional server in Rawalpindi, in Islamabad, in Karachi, and therefore this whole process can go fast, because AI model is going to be free, mobile application is going to be free, so hopefully this is going to turn into it. I'm not going to, of course, get into the regional servers right now. Again, there's always a focus to be done, and the focus is that make this easily available as soon as possible, and then we have iterative process of moving forward as far as the project is concerned, and clearly laying the highway, laying the freeway where anyone can actually do these research projects, anyone can do these applications and product and commercializations in the future as well. So that's the whole idea behind different collaborations, and we are extremely excited about Rawalpindi Medical University collaborating with us, because we want to create a data pipeline. We're also going to create label ops pipeline. We can eventually create partnerships in which part of it can be, radiology residents and radiology attendings can take part in label operations as well. Again, we're going to teach these people how to commercialize, do FDA approvals, etc. These are exclusive courses, but we're going to offer it to RMU at no cost in the future. It's going to take a while. I'm going to be honest with you. I do not promise anything I don't deliver. So the courses are going to come actually next September 2023, because it's a big thing to work on, and there are actually 2-3 people who are currently working on it. And then these projects that they, not only that, if somebody comes in from RMU and say that, hey, I want this project, we will be guiding them in terms of that, hey, this is the commercial project, commercialization potential of this project, and this is how you're going to go through it, and we'll be happy to mentor those students as well. The way we have proceeded in our place is that we have one physician, that's a doctor, works with one basically a computer science specialist, and they pair together for different projects moving forward. So we have a whole team that does that in this process. Of course, these are the founders. These are my advisors who are basically have been very helpful in helping me move this forward. And of course, like currently, for example, Mashudur Rahman is our scientific officer in the Asia region. He's looking at the CT brain. He's collected all the data. He's writing all the papers. And he's basically working with Rida Said, who's actually a computer science specialist, and they're both working on this project of CT hemorrhage together. And then in future, we're going to have the same process that's going to be repeatable. One doctor, one computer science person working together on projects, and the idea is that we can move health tech forward. Again, I'm extremely grateful for your time. I thought that would be easier to give you this video. Now you can have all the questions ready, and we can do a live Zoom or Google Meet conference, and then we can move forward with our discussion. Thank you so much.